once the recording starts. And we ask all event attendees to mute your microphone during the session, and then just please put any questions that you might have in the chat. We are going to have time later to go over these questions, and Ivy Vineo is here with AICHO. She's our traditional healing coordinator, and Ivy will help field some of those questions to Tom. So before we begin, we always start with the acknowledgement that we are on traditional Indigenous homelands. And right now I'm in Duluth, which is rests on the ceded land acquired in a nation-to-nation treaty between the Anishinaabe tribal nations and the U.S. government. So we would start with that acknowledgement. And then I'll just do a quick introduction for myself. I'm Leanne Littlewolf. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the executive director for the American Indian Community Housing Organization, AICHO. We're really happy to be here tonight, joined by Thomas Howes. And then just to tell you a little bit about AICHO, AICHO is a nonprofit organization that was established in 1993. We have several program areas. One is the Dabanuagun Domestic Violence Emergency Shelter. We have the Gamaji Mino Bamadizimin Permanent Supportive Housing program. We also have arts and cultural programming, a food sovereignty initiative, a health equity initiative, and a social enterprise called Indigenous First. As a community organization working to deepen cultural strategies to help improve our life conditions, I'm just really pleased to be a part of that we were able to offer the speaker series, and just want to welcome Tom Howes tonight to talk with us about traditional physical health and healthy practices. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Bonjour and dinner morgen iduk. Mikazin do dame. Nien badasa ge guyan. Mioma papash community gang way Japan. Gotcha nong and doing Japan ungum. Gigets ago. Is away in a month. Bug to Ewan. You know, needs Bramadizik. You know, needs in a Schnabik. So, my name is Thomas Howes, I'm Eagle Clan. I'm from Fond du Lac Reservation. I live out here in the old historic Fond du Lac village. So, not on the reservation, but way out west Duluth, where our name comes from. And I'm excited to be able to share what I can about wellness and about Bagaduewan. So I'm going to go through a bit of a PowerPoint, and then hopefully we have a little bit of time left for questions, provided I don't drag on too long. So I think with that, I'll start. I'll share my screen here. That going. Everybody can see that?
Yes.
All right. Let's load. So I've been playing and making things for Bagaduewan for a few years now. I'm 51 years old, and I have 5 children, and that's a lot of the reason that I do what I do. When I'm not doing this, when I'm not being a dad, or when I'm not playing Bagaduewan, I'm the natural resources manager for the Fond du Lac Band. And so just before you think I'm just running around playing lacrosse all the time, I do have other things I do with my time. So I always start out with a little bit, you know, for people that don't understand. People know what modern lacrosse is. They don't know as much about the fact that there are all these traditional stick games from all over Turtle Island. You know, I'm Ojibwe, but I'm also Norwegian, and I'm also Muskogee. And so some of my ancestors played this 2-stick game, the smaller of some of these sticks that are on here. but I also specialize and am mostly culturally uh, grown up as an Ojibwe person. And so that's what we're going to focus today's talk on. But I just like to always tell people that depending on where they come from and where they live, there are all these stick games that are around. And, the modern lacrosse game, of course, comes from the Haudenosaunee and their style of stick, those larger sticks. And they've been very good through the course of settler colonialism to have maintained that game, and much to their credit. And also the southwestern or south the southern tribes, southeastern and south tribes, the people in Oklahoma and Florida and out to the Carolinas have held on to their stickball game, that two stick game. But here in the Great Lakes, it's not been we weren't as successful at retaining that, whether it's in any sort of form, whether that was more for just for fun or more for ceremonial purposes. But that's changing, thankfully. And that's kind of what has led me into this. I didn't grow up as a lacrosse player. I grew up as a skateboarder, and I still like to think I'm one. But really, what I am I do woodworking and things, and the skills that I have that allow me to help out with this sort of revitalization of Bogdoawan is that I learned a long time ago, like 14, 15 years ago, how to bend wood to make cradle boards. And when I became exposed to Bogdoawan, I knew how I already had tools and experience that I could put toward making sticks. Long before in the early 1900s, people in the Great Lakes region in Ojibwe country and Dakota country still played Bogdoawan a lot more than they did in say most of the 1900s. They kind of went to sleep for a little while, but um, it was pretty commonplace in the treaty making era and through the early 1900s for there to be stickball games, and at least in different times, whether that was to entertain tourists or whatever, it was still kept alive by a handful of people, um, and thankfully they did that. But when I grew up, I had never seen a stick. I'd never seen the game played this Bogdoawan. I'd never seen it, and until one year in about 2017 was the first time that I actually got to play. I had seen it a handful of other times, sticks and things, and heard of it, but didn't think much of it. But what got me involved in this was in 2017, a group out of Minneapolis, St. Paul area called Twin Cities Native Lacrosse came to Fond du Lac Reservation. And Twin Cities Native Lacrosse really does a lot with wellness and working with youth and community and trying to share what they know of the game. And when they came to Fond du Lac, they were bringing some urban youth up camping, and since they were passing through the area, they wanted to have them come talk to me and to some of my coworkers about natural resource management, in particular about ash trees and forestry, because of the use of ash for the Bogdoawan or the sticks. And their exchange for that was that they would put on a game with some of our community members. So that picture on the right there is from that day that we first played. And what I picked up from that was something that I can't entirely put to words, but it felt right to my spirit to be playing that game. And I knew that it was something that I wanted to see take off. Now, what that is, I don't know. but I have come to the sort of the feeling or the thought that I believe this game is a gift, and it has sort of been we've been exposed to it again because we need it. Um, Ogdewaywin to me, I don't speak for as to why other people play, but I think that there's a lot of commonality in that. Um, I do it because it was taken from us. I do it because it makes me feel right, and I do it because it more than just right physically, but it feels right to my spirit to play. It feels right in my heart, and really that's why I think it's taking off again, and why it is such a beautiful thing. You're able to uh, rebuild some of the community and the things that we've lost. And so a lot of my family does things to try to revitalize culture and language and arts and educate. And I think that's where I get some of that sentiment and philosophy from. But once I played that day in 2017, I sat with us. I sat on the idea like I should do that. I should do that. And I played around a few times uh, in other games until I decided to actually just try to make a stick. And I played a game with Twin Cities Native Lacrosse, or tribal college, brought them to town to put on a clinic and have some games. And I won a stick that day. I sat and looked at that, and that became my template, my guide. And just kind of fumbled my way through it. That was in 2019. And since then, I've been, I don't know, making a lot of sticks. And along the way, picked up the way to make different things like the ball. And so that's really my contribution to this. I play, and I instruct and I do all these other things, but um, really what I hope to really add to this is teach people to make sticks and to get sticks out to communities and really get together and play. So those that don't know, largely uh, ash is the species of tree that is favored because of the way that it grows. Likes to grow nice and straight without knots and so that's why that's used. It's very strong. So once you've gotten yourself a tree, you can break it down into staves or blanks, and from there carve in the sort of basic form of a stick, and then put it into a steamer. Once you have pulled it out of the steamer, you can put it into a mold and let it sit for a day or two. And if you do that, 100 times or so, you'll have a pile of sticks like that. But that's what I've been doing because this was what we were shooting for, was to have big games, to work with all ages and all genders, and to have all of this togetherness that's sometimes missing because there's a lot of, I feel like a lot of healing that comes from that, just being together. But there's also a lot of preventative medicine, I believe, in just being in motion. A lot of mainstream culture has a higher focus on maybe on physical fitness than we do in Indian country. And that's one way that I hope that the Bogdawayan can address is the all those challenges we have with not only physical health, but mental health, and sort of rebuilding and reclaiming our traditional practices. And so to me, this is really powerful and gives me a lot of, at least for myself and for my family, is really a beautiful thing. And I think that a lot of people feel the same way, which is why you can get groups of people together in just about any conditions to play, maybe even in the winter, in the summer, in the rain almost. And so we've just been slowly kind of putting the idea out there of having games, playing together. And that's kind of led to all kinds of beautiful things. You get to meet all kinds of people, and that's one of the things is that it's not only in our small communities at home, but now that the game is growing, there's games in the Twin Cities and in Duluth and Deer River and in Bad River. And I even hear some people from Keweenaw Bay are going to have a game. So I've spent time traveling around teaching people to make sticks or putting on games. These are some people. These are one of my Dakota friends. She's an amazing player. And, Sarah Wheelock, she's a federal judge, and so all it kind of crosses over into all people of all ages and all skill levels like to play this, and it's brought me, a lot of fun as well. I mean, aside from all of the spiritual and physical wellness and joy, as I've got to meet some cool people. So these are probably two of the best lacrosse players ever in the world, and certainly the best Indigenous lacrosse players. On the left there, that's a guy named Lyle, and then this other guy on the right, his name is Zed, and Lyle does a lot. They're both Haudenosaunee guys, and they play they're professional lacrosse players. And this game has brought us down to do exhibitions with these professional teams when they come to Minneapolis, and they've been kind enough to come down and do youth clinics with the Indian kids and to hang out and sign autographs and do stuff with the kids. But in their home communities, they do a lot with youth to inspire them to play not only traditional lacrosse but modern lacrosse as well. And so I gifted Lyle a stick for that stuff that he does in his foundation. And Zed, he came out and did a clinic with, and my daughters were part of that. And we had to teach him how to use one of these Ojibwe style sticks. And so me and him traded, and he traded me his jersey he wore that day. So that was pretty cool. But that's just kind of the beauty that it brings. This because what you'll notice in almost all of these pictures of when we're playing is that there's a lot of smiles, and that's some of that. I always stop people during games. They're getting a little too intense, but certainly then. But a lot of times I'll just stop for a second and say, "Hey, who's smiling right now?" And then that's something that we need more of it. And one of the beautiful things in the way that game is played, it can be just a sport and you can play it just for points and whatever. But a lot of the time when we're doing this, we play like gift games or wager games. And the gift game is my favorite, in that everyone who wants to play brings a gift of some kind, whatever they can manage. And we put down a blanket or two and put out gifts, and then we play. And if someone scores, they can go one way it can be played is that they run up to that and they get to take anything off that pile that they want, but they don't keep it. They have to give that away to someone and build community that way, just to show how much they care about others, and that's not about themselves. So it's really good, especially for younger people, to teach them that whole notion of just gifting and appreciating other people, and it teaches them not to be maybe as shy or whatever that might be. And so that, I think, is a really one of the coolest things. So we use that a lot in the community games. But I've played ones where we face off against each other and say, I'll play you for that stick or that $50 or whatever that might be. But really, what this is about is bringing people together, and that's what it's done. It's really been interesting to see how much it's grown over the last several years. That's kind of the slideshow that I have for you guys. But what I kind of was hoping to do was not have to look at myself, but I went through those slides way faster than I thought. But I will stop my screen share, go back to looking at everybody else.
Is this time for questions?
We could do that if there are, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to when you talked about the gifting and how that works, it reminded me of when you came to AICHO, you and your wife came to AICHO and did a youth game skill building and game scrimmage with our Gamaji Minobamata Zimin youth. And then there was a family that came to the market early, like at 9 o'clock, a little bit before 9 o'clock. And the mom had like 3 kids. And I'm like, there's going to be a traditional lacrosse in the gym. And would you like to play and learn how to play it? And it's open to everybody. And she asked the kids, and the kids were like, okay. So then they went down there, and then they played, and I kind of came down and watched a little bit, and it was so great that they got to learn. And then after it was done, I saw them back at the market shopping, and one of the kids had wild rice or something like that. And I said, oh, did you score? And he was like, no, someone else did, and they gave it to me. And I'm like, oh, that just really touched my heart that that happened. And it's such a good, like you said, a good lesson, a good teaching, cultural teaching. And just very thankful that you are here in this community to provide those teachings and that skill building. And I also have to say, I love seeing my photos in your slideshow.
I wondered if you'd catch that.
Yes,
I
yes.
figured that was okay since you asked me to come
Totally,
talk,
yeah.
but
Yes.
yeah,
I'll have
that's
to
the thing is being a player, I don't ever get to be the one to take pictures. Almost every time I'm at a game, I'm playing just because I can't control myself. That's how much fun it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I kind of rely on other people to take a lot of photos. I'm like, hey, can you send that? Hey,
Yeah. So I do have a question, and the Ojibwe translation for lacrosse is, can you say it again, and can you say what the literal translation means?
I can try. So Baga Adewewin. So Baga Adewe is he or she plays stickball, and Baga Adewewin is like the game. Um, and different people have different translations of it. I've asked my brother and others second language and first language speakers, and their best guess, they don't really know. Some people's guess is that it has to do with baga, which is like the knocking, like a for like a drumstick or a war club, is that same baga sound, and that's kind of the same action. Some people say that it is like the striking of the sticks together as we're playing. There's a lot of stick checking in the game. And so that's one translation, but I've asked like Neeb and I've asked Mary Moose and I've asked other people, and they don't really it's like they didn't grow up seeing the game really either. And so it's not a word or something that's part of their language set, if you will. But now we've adopt to it. But then Neeb, he's come up with one that I really love. And so we were talking about we do some community games out at Fond du Lac on Thursdays, and he talked with my brother, and he came up with this idea of Gigabog Dewewin. And it means uh to carry the game of Boga Dewewin. That Giga is to carry the game. Like be the caretakers of that, whether that's the game knowledge of how to play or the making of the sticks or the balls or whatever that is, but also sort of the respect and values that we try to impart to people as they play. That they're now these people that are going to carry this forward for our people. You know, it's one of these things that I know wasn't, you know, we lost because of boarding schools. I know it's one of those things we lost because of our fractured nature of our communities, how people were separated from each other and couldn't pass on, whether that was language or ceremonial practices or whatever. And when we sort of became mostly assimilated in most communities, that's where things like baseball and sort of mainstream American sports came into play. And that's one of the things I think I didn't say, that is that this game has value and reaches to so many people because it is actually our game, you know, from the Great Lakes. It's an Ojibwe game, you know, and a lot of the younger people that I meet, they think that that's, you know, that really makes them proud to play. Some of these kids I know that come play with us, they don't play basketball or really any other sports, but they'll play this, and so it reaches people that even aren't really quote unquote athletes. But the game speaks to them, I think, in the same way that I think I feel about it. So, you know, and every community has different ways that they feel, and different people may have different beliefs about how this game is played and who can play it and that kind of stuff. So I always share that too a little bit, is that, you know, depending on where you are, you have to sort of respect the local practices. So there's some Dakota people and communities that don't allow women to play. And same like in Ho-Chunk and Menominee, only the men usually play this game, and women have their own games of double ball and what else. But most of the historical stuff that I've seen in Ojibwe country, the women can play if they want to play, you know. The way we do it now is we try to, it's not a lot of rules, you know, anybody who's seen it played or played it, the only real rule is you can't put your hand on the ball, you know. So, but we give people some instruction. And for the men, I always tell them, when you play defense or whatever against the women, it's a hands-off game, and try to see if you can stick check and you can do all those other things. But then we do that same with kids, and with the boys, we say you can't tackle the girls, you can't be hands off, you know, kind of a thing, to teach people boundaries and respect, and that kind of works really well.
Thank you. So if our attendee has any questions, or Leanne, if you have a question or comment to share. How does
it work? There's a couple there.
Yeah. How does it work with different ages?
Yeah. So what we try to do, in a lot of such situations, everybody just plays, and you kind of let the little kids have the ball. In any given game, kind of the way we play it though, is let the little kids get the ball, and maybe don't play too hard on them. And usually we'll let the little kids maybe even score once, and we let them know that's the only free pass you get. And then after that, you know, maybe we'll have the other kids play defense on them, or we might just kind of put pressure on them a little bit and get them used to, and sort of use it as a way to train them to play as they age and get older. But then when it comes to like tournaments, there's usually age groups, and we'll break it down into like 10 and under or 12 and under. And sometimes we do 13 through adults, or 13 to 17. It can be another category. It kind of depends who's organizing it. But that's kind of how we deal with age. And if there's enough little kids, we'll just let them have their own little kid game. That's kind of cute and it's fun. And they get more sort of touches on the ball, because if they get in a game with, you know, teenagers and adults, their odds of handling the ball are pretty low.
All right. I'm going, um,
Like, looked like Locken. I think it's Locken. He said he had a question, I think.
Yeah. So Tom, thank you. We met 2 summers ago at the Lacrosse for Life camp. I had so much fun playing Baga Dewaywen with you. Do you have any more observations of kids getting into the game and how it affects them physically, socially, along with what you said? Bear told me how he notices kids play Baga Dewaywen differently than basketball or baseball. He thinks it's because it belongs to them, like you had referenced before.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing more kids doing it, and like at the Relax for Life camps, it's become sort of one of the more popular requests. I was out there this year at the camp and was asked to actually make a set of sticks for the campers. And so as I think it's Locken. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Locken sounds cool to me. But the yep. Oh, lock in. All right, locked in. um what's the Relax for Life camp, that's the other thing, is that this kind of gateways some people into modern lacrosse. That's what it's done for even my own daughters. They played soccer when they were little, and then they kind of went through a phase where they didn't want to really play any kind of sports, but then getting into Bagaduewen, um I talked them into going to that Lax for Life camp, and then after that now they're playing modern girls lacrosse and they love it, and they play both. And so they sort of support each other because they become sort of cross training tools. But in the community, it really really warms my heart to see what happens, because I see people I know are struggling. I know a lot of people. I've lived here, my whole life, and so I know a lot of these families. I know kids that have really challenging lives in ways that I don't even want to go into. Um, I was fortunate I had a good life, but some of these kids don't, and this provides something to them, whether that is the identity piece that he's talking about, that Locke is talking about, or an escape, or the healing that comes from it. One of the things I guess I try not to delve into too much stuff on the internet about belief structures and that, but I'll just I don't even care. When we play, we always talk to people. One of my aunties, Roxanne Duluth, she always says nothing is for nothing. That we don't just do anything just for the heck of it all the time. But one of the things we do when we play, when we start the game, we circle up and we just always tell everybody "Ombinamuk," which means just Ombanan is the singular, and Ombinamuk is everybody put their sticks up. That's how we. But I tell people, I was like, hey, we're gonna play this game, and that's putting our sticks up. We're telling the money to the spirit that look at them Schnaubiger down there playing that game again, right? That's one way we're trying to get their attention. But then when we throw that ball up, we all sasakwe or yell out, war cry or whoop or lili or whatever our way is to put us a little bit of extra attention to those money dug that hey, we're down here. And we're playing, because I tell people before we start, I say, think about why you're playing. And that's because nothing is for nothing. Maybe you're playing for the trees, or for your relative, for someone that couldn't be here. Maybe you're playing for that old man over there who can't play anymore. Whatever it might be. I just tell people, play for a reason, even if it's for yourself, for your own wellness. That's okay too, you know. But when we sasakwe, when we yell out, that's how we really send that message out to the universe, or the money to go, whatever, however people want to believe. But that's what I do. That's what I'm teaching these kids and these families and people, is to that's really what this is about. It's physical fitness, and it's a heck of a lot of fun, but it really is medicine. That's why I say that it has a lot of value, and I know that it's done that for tons of people of all different kinds of, had all these different life paths. And that's why I think it continues to grow, is that people need that, whether it's additional identity or more healing, whatever that might be, or just more community.
Wow, that's so beautiful. It was, if you didn't just say all that you just said about that, I was going to ask you to share about that. That was my next question, or, because I remember that at Minobamatazi event, and then at the market event, when you shared that with, like, you can be playing this for the water, and it's just, oh, it's just so good. So, Locken, do you have any other questions? I'm thinking about, like, just unmuting you so you can speak if you want to do that too, or share your experience.
Locken's a player.
Yeah.
Locken's a lacrosse player for sure. I saw his picture. I recognize him. So yeah, he says, please unmute him.
Let me see if I can.
Here, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. Yeah, so one of the main reasons why I wanted to hear you speak tonight, partly because you sent me the link for it, and so I wanted to hear your talk. So I'm working on a research project for my senior thesis. I'm in college right now. I'm at Gustavus Adolphus College, and I'm working on a senior thesis for my religion major. You kind of looking at Lax for Life and my experience working at the camp 2 summers ago, and using that as this case study for the benefit of revitalizing tradition across multiple Indigenous communities. And so I'm looking at other researchers who are studying similar ideas, like Joseph Gahn, who's studying the effects of mental health of different communities through incorporating different traditions. I think other projects like different sweat lodge practices, or different community sharing practices, or another researcher, Lynn Lavallee, who she's looking at different martial arts practices and different just community sharing practices, and how that just really benefits the communities involved. And so I'm using Lacrosse and Bagadowewan as this other example for how incorporating, maybe it's like you said, traditions that, or practices that maybe were asleep for a while, that kind of were forgotten, and then bringing them back, of how amazingly beneficial this is. And my experience with you at Lax for Life was so impactful on me, of just seeing how what I previously thought of as a sport, like I played lacrosse growing up as just another sport like hockey or soccer, but it was just so much more for the kids playing, and just seeing how into it the kids got. But then also just other community members, like other people we didn't know, would just show up and grab a stick and start playing. And that's so different than other sports. So yeah, overall, just thank you so much. That was honestly what I typed was my main question, of how other kids are picking it up, and how they play it differently than other sports. And I'm thinking about the reasons for that. And like you said, it just feels right in your spirit. And I remember playing, when I was playing, just, I think for me it was primarily the togetherness of it, that it felt so different than competing against other people. If I'm playing more modern lacrosse, like I'm competing against an opponent, but playing Bagadowewan with such a large group it wasn't a competition as much. Like there was definitely that aspect, but it was I don't even know, a celebration together. It was a physical celebration in some way. It just felt different. And so overall, thank you. This is amazing. I have so much that I want to write about and research further. So thank you for your time and for sharing your knowledge with us.
Yeah, no, I hope to see you sometime and be able to play and catch up. That'd be great.
I hope so.
We're always, if you're really bored, you can come play tomorrow up in Bad River. They're having a community game that starts at 10 a.m., but you might have homework to do. But every Thursday we play at Fond du Lac. at our tribal and community college. We start playing at 5 to 8 this coming Thursday, and we'll do that all winter long. And you know, what we're trying to do is every time there's an event is have a game.
Yeah.
You know, and really just celebrate being together, like you said, because it's just a lot of fun, and it has so much benefit to us.
Thank you.
So, Tom, so these games that are open to the community, they're open to the community, like everyone in the community. That's right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no, you know, we may have you sign a waiver depending on where you are, but other than that, yeah, you know, we have everybody and anybody. We let everybody play. And so that's kind of the beauty of it too. I mean, I have all kinds of coworkers from all kinds of backgrounds, and they've gotten the bug and like to come out and hang out and be part, because they're part of the community, you know. And then I've heard like Lyle, I was talking about Lyle, you know, he does a lot of outreach and talking of stuff about with lacrosse. And I think one of the things I heard him say was that they believe that lacrosse, even the modern game, that you know, is a copy of their traditional game. They believe that he believes that it's a gift to the world, that lacrosse is a gift to the world, you know, that this is something that everybody appreciates and enjoys, and that makes sense, you know. And so kind of, you know, when we play these traditional games, we just like to remind people where this game comes from and try to impart that kind of that sentiment to people.
So is there a at each game, is there like at the beginning just a little education and then some skill building, or are people just thrown into the game and then you know, I just want to, like, if people are going to watch this that haven't never played before and want to go, but you know, they might be
don't be afraid, you know. I mean, that's the thing, is that we're all learning, and we're always getting better, and especially because you know, this game is in this rebuild phase. What we do on Thursdays at Fond du Lac is it's very intentionally meant to be sort of a spawning ground for players and a recruitment tool. So we spend like the first hour, if we need to, just throwing around, playing catch. The people that know how to play, it's a warm-up session. And if there's new people there, we can work on all the ABCs of it, you know, and do that. It just depends who shows up. But certainly we try to come on, you know, come play no matter what, because some people take a little more coaxing, but I mean, we don't pressure anybody, but yeah, people should absolutely show up. We'll be more than happy to show them how to cradle and you know, scoop it and catch, and you learn the tactics pretty quick, and you don't have to have a team of people. Just come, whether it's 1 or 10 of you, doesn't matter. The more the merrier. So it's really fun to meet new people and have different games, because we're at the point where we're playing against each other all the time. And so it's fun to have new people in the mix, because, you know, one, they're somebody that may continue to play and benefit from it, but it's also nice to have just more people.
Great. Thank you. Any more questions?
You know, I just want to share a quick story, and then I have a question at the end of it too. But you know, through AICHO, we were a grantee through the Nota Begay the Third Foundation, and they had this Healthy Kids, Healthy Futures conference, and it was all about like getting physical activity and having fun, but then like doing it from our, you know, our traditional ways. So it was like it was all like cross generations. Like we were playing games, or it was like young, you know, like youth, and then adults, and then older adults, and then we were laughing. We were you know, these games were like really funny, and we were moving, and it didn't matter like your ability, but we were up and we were active and moving. And it was because, you know, the people that were teaching us, you know, they made it so that everyone could be included. So they had all these different workshops where the goal was that each presenter had to have their attendees that at 80% of it was physical activity in the conference session. So we were pretty busy, but we were having fun. And then I went to a session with a professional lacrosse player, and I thought, oh, I don't know if I should go on this one. And as a professional athlete, and it's going to hear a lot of sports talk. And no, when we got in there, he said, okay, I don't only have this much time. We got to do we're going to do some skill building. We're going to have the lacrosse sticks. We're going to do some things. But the very first thing I want to do is I want to tell you where this game comes from. I want to tell you the story. But I have to watch it because I could spend a couple hours telling you this story. And he was so excited about the story. And I was like, I've never experienced a story or a sport where you would start with our traditional story, our traditional view of the whole world. And then after he's like, I got to shorten it up. I can only tell you a little bit. And then he said, when I was a little guy and I got my first stick, I was taught this stick is alive. This stick is my best friend, and my stick went everywhere with me. I went to the grocery store to get my penny candy. My stick was with me, and like he named all the places he would go, and his stick would be. And they're like, and everyone talked about, oh well, there he is with his stick. But he's like, but that stick was my best friend. And so then I think, like, with our you were talking about our physical activity. It's about being in community and belonging, and like getting to meet new people, going new places, learning different ways, like especially if you go across like to different tribal nations, they have different ways. It's exciting to hear like how other people are or how their game goes, and like to learn about their community. But I was just for you, I was wondering, like, so lacrosse is returning or is coming back or is alive. So what other traditional forms of physical activity do you see either reemerging or people getting excited about and then embracing or bringing back to life?
Well, I've seen a little bit more. Dan Ninham does a lot with traditional games and youth. I see him doing things like the one I could see that would really take off. Somebody should take this idea and run with it. Is that women's double ball game? I'm probably not the one to do that, but somebody should take that idea. A lot of our organizations serve women that probably would have a lot of fun hanging out with each other, playing a competitive game. Because I know these women that play lacrosse have a great time doing it. But something that's specific to them, I think that would be real. That's something that's realistic that would have a lot of benefit. When you talked about the sticks being alive, that's exactly it. That's kind of the same worldview that I'm taught. I mean, there's a whole lot of this that I gloss over, but when I make these sticks, I talk to that tree. I tell them why I'm gonna transform their life into something else. I sing for them, give them and put out tobacco and explain to that tree that we're gonna do something else to help the people with your life. And so that's where when people have sticks, we tell them that's your life. Take care of it. It's not just a stick you throw around, leave out in the yard. Take good care of it. And and in some cultures, like some stick game cultures, like I know the double ball game down south, a lot of those folks, they won't let anybody even touch their sticks because they're sort of that protective of their energy that's with those. They don't want anybody tainting what's been done for those sticks and that kind of thing. And so that's kind of a common sentiment. But other things that may get legs, I don't know. But this is one that for sure, when people come here to the Great Lakes, I hope that this is something that we always say, well, yeah, we have our wild rice and our syrup and all these kind of things, but we also play Pagduevan, you know. That's my hope.
Well, I want to say thank you to Miigwech because the spaces that you've created, my grandson goes and plays and he loves running. You know, he's little, he's little, so he probably doesn't get the stick that or the ball that much, but he runs back and forth. And then he challenged me to a foot race. So we ran a mile, you know, and he's 7. So he was like, you know, he smoked me. He just was like blazing. But you know, that's what his parents said is that he just runs up and down, you know, and his legs are really strong and he's really healthy, but he's made a lot of friends. So I mean, thank you for allowing, you know, helping that happen, all of that. So
Yeah, I mean, it's not just me. Like this is a whole thing. You know, I just get the sort of the opportunity to talk to people about it, and I appreciate it. But there's a whole lot of organizations, whether it's like AICHO or other community things like our language program at Fond du Lac or you know, the Boys and Girls Clubs in Bad River. There's a lot of people that are kind of putting energy and resources toward this now, which is really beautiful. Yeah. Best thing I've run into in a long time. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, well, thank you. Thank everyone that is doing that. Ivy, do you have any questions before we close for the night?
No.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking time to really share with us and to really offer the community kind of an insight into like why it's so important. And do you have any questions for us before we go?
I don't. I just appreciate having the opportunity to share a little bit of what I know. I don't claim to be an expert or anything. I just try to share what I've picked up, and you know, hope to see more and more of your relatives out playing, and even you come out, because that's the thing that I try to is that people is it's not just for kids, and it's not just for you don't even have to play when you come out. Just come out and be around, be in community with people. I think that's part of the value is just come laugh at people getting knocked around or whatever. But yeah,
John Hunter came to AICHO too to work with the Gamaji kids. We were lucky he came for a couple nights just to do just the basics. But then we went into a scrimmage, and what I noticed while we were playing, I'm not very coordinated, but I was always encouraged, you know, to do that. And I feel like it's a game where you get encouraged and it is competitive, but then even our team, we were cheering for the other team. So it's a different kind of competitiveness. And it's also it's like a real like collective encouragement that you see. And like there was so much learning that was happening in those exchanges. And then just for the young people that were playing, they were so proud. I mean, and it was just we were just there for like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And it was a very quick, I felt like it was a quick transformation on some of those things that were happening. So there's a real power in the game. So yeah, I'm just excited that we're continuing to have spaces where kids and adults and everyone even like me, I'm not coordinated, but it was great. I went out to the Lincoln Park when the Center for American Indian Minority Health and then Indigenous Education through Duluth had that meeting, and there was so many young people and community members that were out there. So it's exciting to see happen.
yeah, I just encourage places that are doing it, and John, a big I have a lot of respect for him. You know, he's the one that really exposed me to the game, and he's been a good ally and a sort of a friend over the last few years as I've been doing this. And what we've found is regularity is really important when we're trying to do this. So whether it's, you know, we pick a day and we stick to it, we try to show up and be there so that it's not just this pop-up one-off event and kids, oh, I missed it. Or the community, oh no, I was out of town, or I was, because we're busy, right? And so that regularity is really cool because, you know, if it's half of the time that kids can make it or families can make it, that's still a lot more activity that they're getting in than they would normally. So that's just something, if folks are on here that are watching this later, if they're thinking about what could we do in our community, or is just be regular about it. Find a team of people that will be the ones that take care of the sticks and show up and have a jug of water. That's the beauty of this too, is you don't need a lot of resources. Once you have sticks and a couple balls, you're good.
Thank you again, and I think we're gonna say goodnight, but I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for taking time with us this evening.
Yes, miigwech.
All right. Miigwech Bizendaoye. Thanks for listening.
All right. Miigwech.